everyone. We are very excited to have you here today and really dive in a little bit more to our MetaCog survey and toolkits. My name is Megan Bowers. I'm the Director of Digital Learning. Lindsay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Lindsay Pietro. I am the educational sales specialist, and some of your names are familiar, so it's nice to see you here. If you've had the opportunity to do an onboarding or a demo, you may hear me repeating myself, but I'm glad you're here today.
So really quickly, I'm just going to do a quick, I know many of you are already Smarts users, but just do a quick brief walk you through our curriculum, and then we're going to spend the most of our time today looking at the actual MetaCog survey and toolkit and allowing you to see how it actually works, how you would administer it and use it within the classroom. And then hopefully we can answer any questions you might have as we go along. As I mentioned, or Elizabeth mentioned, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll try and either answer those directly to you or hopefully ask those at the end of the presentation. So for those of you, you are probably aware, we are Research ILD and are a nonprofit organization. We work with families and students and educators to support learning differences and executive function challenges. We have both an educational therapy side that works directly with students and families, and we also have our SMARTS curriculum. For those of you who've attended, we are just about to launch. We're very excited. Our SMARTS Connect high school and middle school curriculum, which will be coming out soon. And we also have our classic curriculum and our at-home curriculum. We are very excited that we are directed by Dr. Lynn Meltzer. Many of you probably know Lynn Meltzer and her work. She has over 35 years of research and publications, including 10 books on executive function processes, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, and giftedness. I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to read some of those books.
The Bibles, right?
Yes, the Bibles, absolutely. So SMARTS, as you know, most of you, what this stands for, and all working together is strategies, motivation, awareness, resilience, talents, and success. And it's our belief that all of these kind of come together to create an EF curriculum that is designed to really empower students in both their academic and real world settings. This is a research-based instruction, and our goal is to provide lifelong strategic opportunities for our learners. So there are many different researchers on executive function and a lot of different definitions or areas that are focused on with executive function. We, in our curriculum, focus on 5 of these components. The first one being organizing. So when we think about organizing, we're thinking about categorizing and sorting information. We spend a lot of time on goal setting, so setting realistic aspirations. So what are your goals and how can we get there? Cognitive flexibility is a huge one for us. That's looking at things in a brand new way, being able to take on different perspectives. Accessing working information, so juggling that information in the brain, being able to shift within the brain for those informations, and then self-checking. So that's really thinking about acknowledging your own mistakes, acknowledging your own strengths and challenges, and also being able to find strategies in which to grow from those. Oh, I'm sorry. I think one of the most important parts of our curriculum and kind of the foundation for what we're going to talk to you about today with the MetaCog survey and toolkit is that Dr. Meltzer really believes that executive function does not exist in isolation. So a student's use of these strategies is deeply connected to their understanding of themselves and their beliefs and their ability to succeed and their motivation to try. So thinking about learners, the most important part to being able to access a lot of these executive function strategies is being able to understand yourself as a learner and think about how do you learn? You know, what are your strengths and your challenges and what strategies help you to achieve your goals as a learner? So all of these together, that metacognition piece along helps improve that motivation and effort, and also that self-concept of understanding yourself as a learner then helps you to access those executive function strategies. And I think one of the real important things that we believe in our curriculum is that, this is a reflection process. This is cyclical. It's a constant learning cycle of that. And so how our instruction is designed is we always start with that explicit instruction. So learning new strategies. And so students can learn step by step what those strategies are. We then like to walk students through integrating that into their academic skills. So how is this relevant to your academic tasks? And then being able to connect that to their real life. So where else can you use these EF strategies, not just in an academic setting, but in real world setting? And then probably the biggest piece that we like to promote is that we all have unique strengths and challenges, and really thinking about that reflection and planning piece and thinking about what strategies work best for our individual learners. And so that's kind of why we have designed this MetaCog toolkit. And Lindsay, if you want to go on to this next page. What we're really, really excited about in these two surveys is that the MetaCog Survey and Toolkit will actually be a part of both the middle school and high school Connect curriculum. So with your with the curriculum, you'll also have access to these MetaCog surveys. These MetaCog surveys are two different surveys. The first one is the strategy use survey. And what the strategy use survey focuses on is it helps students to understand their strengths and challenges when using strategies for planning, for organizing, for memorizing, and shifting and self-checking. And then we also have the ME, the motivation and effort survey. And this really helps teachers and students, and I also say parents, to understand what motivates themselves. It has students really take a look at rating how much effort they put into different subjects and academic tasks, and it helps them to think about why they persevere when they experience difficulty. So again, Lindsay is going to walk you through these and kind of guide you for best practice in using these. But we really follow 3 easy steps when we're doing this, and that's number 1, you administer these tests. Then we encourage students, as you'll see, will get individual reports, as well as teachers will get class reports summarizing all of their students' responses. We encourage a real reflection process. So that involves students really taking a look at their surveys and thinking about themselves as learners and having time to reflect on, how do I learn? How do I think about my thinking, and what strategies am I using, and what strategies will help me when I face challenges. And then the last piece of this, kind of as we said, is you'll access those reports. So there is individual reports that are for students, and also those that teachers will be able to access. So what Lindsay's going to do is actually take you to our MetaCog Survey and Toolkit website. And kind of walk you through, you as a user, what this would look like and what the experience is going to look like, not only for you, but also for your students and any educators who are involved in working with your students directly, and also what parents can take away from these and how it will guide your SMARTS and EF instruction.
Perfect. Thanks, Meg. When you have a license for the MetaCog, you access it from our smarts-ef.org portal. You would go to the My Smarts tab and maneuver to the MetaCog. As Meg said, it will be embedded within the Connect middle school and high school programs. You can absolutely still use the MetaCog with the secondary curriculum, the classic version. It's a premium add-on, but it's very absolutely doable. And then other folks, you can also use the surveys as a standalone. So as we had said, there's 2 surveys at your disposal within the MetaCog umbrella. The STRATUS survey, the administration process is going to be similar for both. And so here you'll see your 3 steps. Administer the survey, reflection is key. And then once you've given the surveys to all of your students, you will access their profiles. So it's a pretty light lift from an educator's perspective. You're going to create a survey link that will differentiate by how you see students. So in theory, if you are, uh, my school name is Smarts. I have a study skills class, but I have 5 different sections of it. So this is my second period, my day C on the rotating drop block calendar, confusion that I can't even keep track of with my own kids' schools. And so you would have these different links set up by how you see students, and also identifying what time of year or when you're administering the survey is really helpful as well. If you want to use the Stratus as a tool for sort of gauging student growth over time. If you are an independent practitioner or you only work with students one-on-one, you have a very easy link that you would give to students. It'd be one-on-one spring 2025 or whatnot. And then identify the grade level, of course. If you're using the curriculum, you have the option of choosing which version of curriculum you have access to. And then, as with everything, right? Because one thing that I like to be clear about is, nothing in Smarts is self-guided or self-taught, right? Within the curriculum itself. And the same goes with the MetaCog. So if the teachers are always the catalyst to making the magic happen. So if you want the students to have the link, you are in charge of copying it and sending it to them. There's no adding students to a roster, anything of that nature. So you would copy the URL, and then when the students come into the classroom, yeah, this is not something we would want to assign as homework, right? We're not there to lead their responses, but more to just help provide clarity if there's some questions. So the students will sit down, they'll click on the link you've provided them, and there's resources that we have, including the video that you can share with students or some printed instructions that really outline what we cover here, which is really just, we're going to take a survey. Nobody have a panic attack. It's not a pop quiz, okay? We don't have any right or wrong responses, but it's helpful if you do this sometimes, unless it's the only thing you've got. And there's 30 items on the questionnaire. It usually takes about 10 minutes. All of the questions are also audio.
Strategy use survey.
So for adaptability. And then when the students click next, you'll see all of the questions are phrased in this format, but they cannot progress until they put something in the name box. Now, this, of course, is what you need to follow your school, district, organization privacy policy. But that's where we identify each of the students that are in second period day C, if you will. When the students push submit, this profile pops up on their screen. So they will see that here's my own student profile, Big Bird. He's very insightful, junior, I think. This will show the student's area of strength, where it will serve them in school and in life. It's going to also show a challenge area, but nobody gets to cry because 'tis to be human. This is, everybody has a challenge area, right? And then the bottom part of this profile, it's more for you as the educator, because again, the students, especially the research that led to the development of our program really shows that the executive function is most effectively taught when it's modeled by a grown-up, right? If a student's very disorganized, we don't say, well, you should go get better at that, right? So this will be the outline for the 10 SMARTS lessons in order of priority that would best serve this individual student. Now, there's also some built-in reflection, which I'll come back and show this to you in a moment as well. But in theory, you could essentially give the link to the students and then let them know, let's start thinking about our profile while we wait for everybody else to finish. For those of you who might be working in for this example, that study skills second period, it's a group, it's more than one student. So rather than you kind of going through all of the individual profiles of the students that are in front of you, the class profile does that for you. It's going to aggregate all of the individual profiles and give you a collective summary with the 10 SMARTS lessons in order of priority that would serve the group. So this essentially could be, your scope and sequence, your lesson plan for a semester or a school year, right? Um, with the STRATUS survey, I'm going to go back to that individual profile, right? If they have been reflecting and maybe they say, okay, my profile strength, it says it's organizing and prioritizing. Maybe they say, I kind of agree, right? My closet's a disaster, but my binder's tidy. That's great. This is the things that are going to start like getting the wheels turning up there. If you have a student who maybe says, I definitely disagree, as time allows, that's your opportunity to say, well, let's look, right? Let's see how you responded to some of these questions. In some situations, this is a great place to sort of catch kids being awesome at something that they might be hypercritical about. Or on the other side, maybe it's a chance to very gently, with love and compassion, bring them kind of back down to earth if they maybe have like an overinflated sense of ability. But I will say a lot of situations, a lot of times that when we initially administer these surveys to students, especially our younger ones, so the MetaCog is really sweet spot, grades 6 and up. I think fifth grade is borderline. We have tried many iterations of the surveys with younger students, but the data is not reliable. Younger students typically are not very accurate self-reporters. They tend to answer the questions based on what they think is the right answer, right? How would Ms. Pietro want me to say? So yeah, those age appropriate grades 6 and up. And, if students have never explicitly been taught strategies, they may, right out of the gate, the first time you give them this STRATUS survey, they may inflate their ability when we ask them about strategy use. Then, as we go through the school year or over time, we give them explicit instruction, lots of opportunity to practice it and practically apply strategies to life. Then, we can sometimes re-administer and it almost looks like they're getting worse when in reality it's just more accurate, an more accurate reflection. So the other survey, pardon me, let me interrupt myself here. So there we've administered the survey. The reflection sheets can also be found here, and there's also really great guided discussion questions that are available. The motivation and effort survey, what we call the ME, same process as far as how we get that link to students. It takes a bit longer. There's some built-in reflection questions on the ME survey. I will also say we do not really encourage you giving these both surveys on the same day. There may be like fatigue when we see students responding to both of these surveys on the same day. And whereas the STRATUS survey can be given about, up to once a semester, maybe once a trimester. I forgot to show you the ability to sort of see their growth over time. I'll come back to that in a moment. The motivation and effort survey, I feel like is more of we're administering this with a bit less frequency. So I'll kind of show you the profile we get from the ME survey goes into, what motivates the student, what makes them feel unmotivated. Oh, you're new to my school? Okay, great. Here's an opportunity for us to make some quick connections, get to know you. What makes the student keep trying? What makes them want to give up? Where do they put in the most effort? And where do they put in the least effort? So the reflection section for the motivation and effort survey has a strategy bank as well. So we can see if the student reflects and we say, homework is my least motivated space. You can go to the strategy bank and find, okay, here's some suggestions, right? How might you be able to apply, whatever it is that you're doing for math, which is your most motivated effort area. Maybe start to think about whatever you're doing for math. Let's apply it to homework. And these profiles are very shareable, right? So you could generate a PDF, and this could be something that goes out to any teacher that the student encounters in their day at the school. That can be a very powerful understanding if it's a matter of, boy, maybe we need to adjust our teaching style based on how this student receives, right? Or if anybody's ever had the parent in a meeting who just says, I don't know what Lindsay's problem is, she's just lazy. And then we have this great opportunity to say, actually, Lindsay's not lazy at all, right? She's telling us right here in black and white that she quits before she even begins when she's overwhelmed with instructions. So again, maybe we, as the adults in the room, we all really lay heavy on the support on the front end. And then, let's see where that takes her, right? So the class profile for the motivation and effort survey is going to give you a snapshot, right? And we don't do these based on a scale of like green, yellow, red, good, bad, because again, this is all student self-assessments, right? So this is how they self-rate in the areas of motivation and effort, resilience, and strategy use. And then you can kind of just look to see if, like, broadly speaking, this small group, okay, looks like we've got math as a common area between these two students, or, generally speaking, does everybody in here, hate homework? Well, too bad. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, the class profile is also available for the motivation and effort survey. I apologize for bouncing around here. I do this for a job, so I very much know where all of the things are and how to navigate, which we are more than, if you are new to using MetaCog. If you're a current MetaCog user, I hope that you know to never hesitate to reach out to either of us. I think Meg and I are both more than happy to help if you need some support. But it does mean that I catch myself skipping around and being not very structured. So the STRATUS survey, when I had said we can administer that up to once a semester. Now this would be a tool, not an absolute concrete, but something that you guys could use as a piece to help you kind of gauge growth over time. Here you can see on an individual student profile, we can take their responses on how they answered the survey at the initial onset, right? The beginning of the school year, perhaps. And then we teach them smarts. We, again, practice and practically apply those strategies to school and life. And we re-administer the survey at the end of the school year or semester. This pre-formatted template will automatically highlight where some pretty significant areas of growth occurred. So again, this is quite a subjective tool, but I think it can be very helpful. I say that only because I did just have a recent conversation with a teacher who asked me, like, how many of these need to code green for me to give them a pass or excellent or whatnot. And I think, that's to be determined. It's a very individualistic analysis. So I'm going to pause for a moment before we jump back to the presentation to just see if anyone has questions. Do I have any MetaCog users on the call? Does anybody want to just before I move back over? We can wait till the end too, if you're gathering all of your best questions. Okay. So it's, again, a very easy process for administering the surveys. Some of the tools that are embedded in the MetaCog license also include support ideas for, figuring out which survey might I want to give, when might I want to administer it, the goals for each of those surveys. There's parent resources that we have available, and then, lots of information. If you're a motivated self-starter and you prefer self-guided tutorials, there's a load of resources at your disposal. But again, we're a small organization. Everybody here is more than happy to help if you have a question. So complimentary onboarding comes with any MetaCog or Smarts license. And that's, meant to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident using our programs.
Yeah, and I would say Lindsay and I meet with, different educators all the time who want to use these tools in different ways of, thinking about implementing our curriculum too. So we also sometimes will, sit with instructional coaches or teachers and, help them think about how can these tools guide your instruction and what might that look like in your classroom as well, whether it's small group, large group, one-on-one. we love to be, partners in that as well.
Yeah, we do this all day. I'm happy to do it. There's
Yes.
just some anecdotes from like some students and some teachers, people who are using the MetaCog. Um, and then now I put you all on the spot and I say, we've talked about metacognition for this, 30 minutes so far. Um, Tell me what you're all thinking about. Do you have questions, insight, comments, anything else you'd like to know about the MetaCog? That is what we're here for.
I just got a message. Deborah can't speak right now because she's actually with a class, but she said she's used this with high functioning students and those on the spectrum, and it's been very valuable helping him to learn and about their learning profile and also to advocate for those students and the supports they needed and just that the support she's had with working with us too.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
Deborah.
yeah.
I think of different things that I forget to talk about while I'm going through some stuff. So if we're waiting for questions to be gathered, I'm going to come back for a moment to the STRATUS survey. This is the individual student profile, right? Which I do to, I guess, speak to Deborah's point where, gives them a little more self-confidence is I love that it starts with a strength, right? There's a lot of times that these students might be coming in to work with you and they're very self-critical. I'm bad at that. I don't have it. I don't know what it is, but I can't do it, about executive function and whatnot. And I think, in many situations, if I'm speaking with somebody, I'll use myself as an example. When we talk to students about what is metacognition? It's this understanding that like not everybody is good at everything. Not a human on this planet can cover all of these things with excellence. So when we know what works, what, comes easily to us, at some point we are going to find that we come across something that isn't in our wheelhouse. And so that's the link of the executive function with strategies with the metacognition is this understanding that like when we're faced with something that doesn't come easily to us, I might be able to identify, oh, this is something that is not my favorite. I have these strategies that are going to help me still get through it. Can't just take my ball and go home, right? Um, so one of the questions that I have when I'm working with new Metacog users, this is for situations, if um, some schools or some organizations, they almost like to provide like a predefined scope and sequence for what lessons and or what, EF strategies they might work on with students, which is great, right? We can broadly define like as a goal for my seventh grade class, I know that we're going to do some lessons on note taking or goal setting or whatnot. But the Metacog profile really allows us to custom the STRATUS survey rather. It really allows us to customize based on, from the mouths of babes. This is where these students are telling us that they don't have comfort or confidence. And so that really helps us dial in specifically to these strategies, which can help build them up in those areas. And a common question might be if we administer the survey at the beginning of seventh grade, this might be the student's profile. If we go through and re-administer at the end of the school year after we've taught some or many of these lessons, what if the same lesson shows up on that student's profile? And my response to that is always that as much as we cannot look at that as being a bad sign, because all that's telling us is that the student just needs more support, right? Executive function is not core content stuff like we taught you, you should know it. Some students are going to take a little longer to embrace or apply, kind of pick up what we're laying down, sort of a thing. Um, and that's okay, right? So nothing in executive function is ever one and done. If we have a lesson that's showing up consistently on a student's profile, it's our cue to sit and marinate in that sort of a strategy. Let them understand it. Executive function is everywhere. So the more places we can kind of look at it, name it, identify it, and help students think about how it could be applicable to use that strategy in that scenario, then that's quite powerful.
Yes. And I always tell teachers too, just like any piece of curriculum, right? You need to come back, you need to spiral back to it. students need need that extra practice. They need to relate to it. So it's just like that as well, right? They need to.
Yeah. I am notoriously bad about like talking, looking at the chat while I'm driving. Anything else in there? Or any questions that anybody wants to chime in on?
One was, is this a system? And I think this is a great question because we talk about this a lot, Lindsay. Is this a systematic, explicit curriculum that can be utilized or more as like an as needed tool?
Oh, the SMARTS program. That's a great question. So the Stratus survey, as we had seen, it gives you those, top lessons in order. Okay, here we are. It gives you the lessons that would best serve in this situation. This is the class profile. And it allows you to hyperlink right to that particular lesson. So within the curriculum overall, any of our programs, the classic versions, Smarts Elementary and Smarts Secondary, the new Connect programs, there's nuance in how we structure the lessons, and the lessons themselves will vary. Sometimes depending on the grade band or the appropriateness for an audience, but we always have the same 7 units, which cover, as Meg said at the beginning, these explicit areas of instruction. Um, I think to answer your question, it has a lot to do with consistency, right? So, the program, the curriculum itself is fully modular, so you can bounce around and work on any lesson, whatever you find. It's not one of those like I found a new book and I have to start at the beginning and I better make it to the end by May. I think within the classic programs, there's 30 lessons at your disposal. I have never recommended to any educator in any setting to approach this with like, try to do all of them. It's important for you to pick like your favorite cliche. It could be less is more, quality, not quantity. I don't know, whichever one, but the fewer areas that we try to dial into and focus within the curriculum with students, that's more powerful than saying like, I checked the box, I did the thing, moving on, what's next? So I think it's a pretty roundabout way of not really answering your question. Was that Taylor? Sorry.
No, I think that's actually a great answer. I think part of why we think the MetaCog survey and toolkit is so powerful is that essentially that can guide what tools you use in our curriculum, right? What's going to serve your students individual and class needs best. And our hope is you will be flexible within our curriculum so that you don't feel that, start at unit 1, go to unit 7. I had a teacher even ask me that. She said, my teachers are just going through this and the kids, aren't quite seeing the connection. And absolutely, right? Because again, students need to understand themselves as learners, understand why this is important, what strategies are, and then that kind of helps guide what instruction you'll use in our curriculum.
Yeah, very, very valid. But I think if Taylor, to layer onto that is that if you can, whatever time you have carved out for explicit EF instruction, the program's really fluid and very adaptable to sort of any kind of environment. I have educators using, one-on-one, small groups, full classroom, tier 1, psychs, counselors, social workers, all of it. But my encouragement is that when we set aside this time for executive function, like we're in education, right? So there's constant like, this is triage, the fire bell rang, my day got interrupted, right? Plans change. And so, again, the program's adaptable to fit with whatever constraints you're working with, but you don't want to do it with such infrequency that students are forgetting what you covered last time. If so, our lessons can be split into these like 15-minute mini lessons, I call them. And so if all I have is time for 15 minutes once a week, that's usually the minimum. What I try to recommend, I feel like if we do it any less frequently than 15 minutes once a week, then my teachers are repeating themselves more than they're covering new ground. But that's to work on like a particular strategy, like one of our lessons. If that's all you have time for is to teach like one lesson in a month, that's very doable.
And I always say across our curriculum that unit one, kind of what is executive function, what is metacognition, like students really having to explicitly think about themselves and how they learn and what thinking about their thinking is, and even learning what a strategy is. You know, I think a lot of times students are using strategies without realizing, adults are, right? We all go to the grocery store and shop different ways. So I think, you know, that unit one of just introducing all of this also helps then as you get into actual explicit strategy instruction.
Yeah. Does that help, Taylor? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Great. Good, good. Um, all right.
And then just a question, how different is the new middle school and high school curriculum coming out in August?
Say that again. How different is it?
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess to reintroduce everything when you so I'm an administrator, my screen would look a lot busier than what you may have access to, but you'll see we have our Connect programs here. The Smarts Elementary and Smarts Secondary, these are our flagship programs that everything else is kind of built off of. And these two those are we have 30 lessons and instruction time is really led from PowerPoints. So there's student handouts and reflection and all sorts of resources available within the elementary and secondary program. But I think what one of the catalysts to developing the Connect program is when we think about Smarts Elementary, this is air quotes, right? Grades 2 through 5, because I have lots of districts where they say, we have a K-6 elementary building. Okay, that's appropriate for elementary. Or I'm a middle school and those kids come in at 5th grade. Those are secondary expectations, right? It has everything to do with like what are the expectations that are being placed on students at grade levels. So that means if this is elementary, then the secondary curriculum, we're talking about middle and high school. Now, that's like a huge expanse of brain capacity. So then that's when we sort of parsed it out a bit more with the middle school or high school version of Connect. Connect will be ready in August, and it will look a lot like this middle school program. So, of course, the same units that are available. The other difference between Connect and the classic programs has a lot to do with the mode of instruction. So instead of me presenting a PowerPoint and editing it and kind of working through a lesson in that way, it's fully digital. So you click start lesson, start course, and the students are, you're essentially like presenting on your whiteboard or your smartboard to go through the lesson with students. It's very interactive. There's embedded videos and mid-lesson knowledge checks. I feel like I'm going astray because
You're right. No, this is great.
Oh,
So
I'm
I'm
sorry.
on the video team. So just to give you a sort of an answer, like with Classic Smarts, it's a great curriculum, but like with Smarts Connect, you're getting just so much more. Like you're getting a lot more material. So like for instance, on the video team, we had one video for overview video for every single one of our units. For Connect now, there is a video for every single one of the overview units, and each lesson has its own intro video and outro video. So in terms of like actual content that you're getting, there's a lot more that in Connect that we've done for you, just in the sense that we know that for teachers the it's not just getting the curriculum, it's like designing all the materials and making sure they're in a way that you can show them easily to your class, and like again also like getting student buy-in by having it be more interactive. That's the way they're used to sort of interacting with the world, where it's not just like you want a PowerPoint and them listening, like they're used to interacting with things digitally. And so like that's the thing that the Smarts Connect does. It's the type of thing that we always wanted the curriculum to be like, but wasn't feasible back when we were putting it together, in the classic way. So that's also why we have both of them now, because it's like some teachers, they like the classic, they want to teach it that way. Great. do that. That's wonderful, you know. But then this is also something that can be used in a lot of different modalities too. So like the Connect is also really good for if you're doing one-on-one coaching. It's really sort of designed more for that, whereas like Classic is great in a lot of different ways, but if you were using it for one-on-one or smaller classes or digital classes, you'd have to do a little bit more work to make it fit. Whereas this is much more Connect is much more out of the box, where you can just kind of like hit it and go.
I would say one thing we also considered is just the student teacher workflow too. Just thinking about, most middle school, high schools now are using some sort of LMS or, digital component to their teaching and learning instruction. So we've really designed it so that everything can be uploaded to whatever your LMS is. Everything's fillable. We have a digital, wonderful, amazing, expansive digital portfolio students can use throughout the course of the school year. So we've really designed it kind of with that all in mind. And again, with the Connect, one of the things obviously we think is greatest is that the MetaCog is part of what you're buying, and truly is pretty invaluable in terms of guiding your teaching and your students' learning of VF.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question from the chat. Can only one teacher have access to this curriculum, or what's the cost if a team of like 4 SPED teachers have access to it?
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Oh, Lindsay,
Yeah. Yeah, that's so we're different from other curricula. We do license per educator, not per student. So depending on which version you're looking at, and my contact info is here. You're welcome to email me, or I can type it into the chat if that's easier. I can be happy to get you like specific info on what you're looking for, but yes, it's per teacher. No limit though to the number of students who could receive instruction from the licensed educator. And yeah, so I can speak more specifically to that if you want to reach out to me.
Yeah, and there is sort of discounts if depending on how many teachers in your program at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, I'm being very vague because I don't have any context, but yes, we're yeah, and there's lots of options for you to consider, so I'm happy to like price out what your different options might be. But
Also, it's like actually taking the Metacog's really fun. Like the Metacog started its life as like a whole bunch of paper surveys, and which gave a lot of great info, but also students needed to be helped in completing them, and then a teacher had to collate and like and actually go through each one and mark everything. It took forever,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's all online, and it kind of reads like a personality test. So like, which kids are sort of used to doing. It's kind of fun, and you put in all of your info, and then like you immediately get this thing back, and it's like, oh, my strengths and challenges. That is me, So it's actually a fun activity to do. So yeah.
I agree. It's like, what's your love language? It's like
It's like that, totally.
Your sun sign from Vogue magazine. Yeah.
Exactly. So also we did have a message earlier. We have some people who are already using the program, and also with Smarts you get access to our conferences. We have discounts for that. We also have specialty workshops that are just for Smarts users, which I'll put info of that in the chat in a second ago. But also like this is our first the pilot is out for middle school, and again, we're putting high school and elementary will be done in August, but it's a dynamic learning environment where we want your feedback. So like, you have any feedback like, hey, how does this thing work? Does this need to be changed? Am I using this right? Like, we're a small office and we really pride ourselves on being approachable. So like, I got some feedback in the chat and I think I'm going to check on. Thank you so much. Like, we want that stuff for sure. So yeah, that's what we kind of want to foster. So thank you.
And we should say the middle school Connect is already ready to go being used here. It is our elementary and high school Connect that is, we're in the pilot process. That will be ready in August.
But it looks and feels a lot like the middle school.
Absolutely.
It will look and feel a lot like the middle school version. So if anybody wants like a demo or, to get eyes on it, that I'd be happy to schedule that as well. So you can just reach out to us.
Yeah, it's like the structure of it is the same. It's just more like the levels of sort of appropriateness for each group. So I'm actually going to put in the chat, as I did previous in the beginning. If you are not a Connect user now, You can get a $100 discount promo for the Connect. If you register for the April 10th Connect webinar, again, that has already happened, but you can still register for it and watch the video if you want. We also have and these are free. You can register for the May 15th. We have another Connect webinar if you want to come live or if that works better for you. Again, if you are already a Smarts user of any kind, we have our executive function summer workshop, and that is is beginning August 5th. I know that's a long way away, but the link to this that is there because we don't want to leave you out, Smarts users, because we love you.
They're all thinking summer right now.
I know.
Yeah. Hold on tight to the end of the school year. Don't fast forward me to August yet. Yeah.
I know.
And if there's any questions, please reach out to Lindsay or myself if we can answer any questions about the MetaCog survey. We are happy to do that. We're happy to brainstorm, troubleshoot, whatever we can do.
Oh, I'm gonna be cliche and I'm gonna be like, if we'll hang out for a few more minutes, but that's all we have, so we can give back 9 minutes to your day if you want it.
Part of the day.
But we appreciate you joining us, and I hope you have a great day.